Hi guys. So I've been hearing about these debates for a few years now. It happened in 2019. A bunch of guys from England, a bunch of men and women from England came together and discussed whether Modi is a good prime minister or not, whether his government is worth its salt or not. I think I can see Salman Khurshid in the crowd, so I don't know if he too debated, if he too took a part in this. Now the woman, a person who is one of my viewers, she recommended that I react to it. Let's see what fun things they discuss. And I have been hearing about this particular topics debate for all these years now, but I never found the interest because I thought they'll get into the same stuff that, yeah, you just repeat those things, because if you didn't get the memo, remember that Modi is divisive and he's toxic and he has toxic masculinity in him and his brand of Hindutva is all wrong. Everyone else knows what's the ideal brand of Hindutva. There's only one brand of Hindutva and it's the one espoused by liberals. There can be no other way of Hindutva or Hinduism. And Hindutva is bad, but Hinduism is great. Remember all these random claims. So I thought they'll just discuss all around these some factors. So why bother? I had just known that one Pakistani woman, she debated in favor of Narendra Modi, but I thought she's a student. And today I googled her that she's actually she works in the diplomat's office. Maybe she was a student back in 2019. But that's nothing to be really excited about because I thought she was a student. If they are students of the Oxford itself, then it might be the case that you have to just pick a side randomly. So just to show off your debating skills, it doesn't matter whether you agree with it in real life or not. So that Pakistani woman taking Modi's side was nothing exciting to me. And today, this woman, Sujata Venugopal, she suggested that I check out this person, Chaitanya Kediyal's arguments on this issue. And I googled him a bit. He's a lawyer in London. So let's see what are his arguments.
Good evening and welcome to this historic debate at the Oxford Union. I want to begin by thanking you, Madam President, for having the courage to organize a debate that is refreshing and that...
See, at the very beginning, the fun part is that why this debate is historic, you should take a note of that. That's very interesting. It's not historic for nothing. That's a very... you can feel their hatred against India and this government reek from the fact that they considered this a historical phenomenon going on, okay? Check out why he considers this historic.
That is unique in its content. For the
Courage to do this content. This is courage.
Good evening and welcome to this historic debate at the Oxford Union. I want to begin by thanking you, Madam President, for having the courage to organize a debate that is refreshing and that is unique in its content.
Courage.
For the first time in this union's history, despite a century-long tradition of always discussing confidence in Her Majesty's government, we have the unique opportunity to discuss confidence in a different government. This is a bold...
Okay. In all of these years of discussing politics, they discuss their own country. Now they have had the courage to meddle into other people's affairs. And okay, fair enough. But remember that not Pakistan's treatment of its minorities, not Bangladesh's treatment of its minorities, because remember they are after all friends to the Christian nation. And it doesn't matter that they are also settler colonial societies, but it's never even mentioned that they are settler colonial societies. Forget all that. They decided to start with India in 2019 as a matter of a historic step towards discussing other nations.
Step that recognizes the Oxford Union isn't a British institution. Rather, it is an institution composed entirely of its members, the people who've taken the...
What kind of a statement and sentence construction is that? It's not a British institution. Instead, I thought he will say that it's an international institution. He goes on to say, it's not a British institution. It's an institution made by its members. As if it's a British institution, it was not an institution made up of its members. As if it's a British institution, it's made up of just the King and Queen of England. My God.
Isn't a British institution. Rather, it is an institution composed entirely of its members,
Oh.
the people who've taken the time out to come and watch...
Yeah, otherwise it would not have been a British institution, remember.
This debate. And therefore, when we vote today, we aren't voting as armchair elites from the UK. We aren't voting as Indians who somewhat know what's happening in the subcontinent. but rather we're voting proudly as members of this union, choosing
Again, randomly, he presents two factors like they are opposing factors, and then goes ahead to say something that's not opposed to what he was claiming in the first place. We are not armchair elites. We are members of these institutions, as if those are mutually exclusive.
We aren't voting as armchair elites from the UK. We aren't voting as Indians who somewhat know what's happening in the subcontinent, but rather we're voting proudly as members of this union.
There. Why he thinks just because he's a proud member of these institutions, he can't be an armchair elite, as if those are mutually exclusive. What's this guy's problem and then claim?
Choosing proudly that we have no confidence in a government that we cannot have faith in. Before I begin, I'm going to acknowledge that some of you might not be or have not been a citizen of India for the last 20 years like me. Some of you might be confused at who is this Modi? I've heard about him in the news. I think I know it's the one in India, right? That's the country with the peninsula. And what I'm going to do before I begin into a really serious discussion on why we should have no confidence is do a quick recap. Civics 101, as it were. India is a huge country. This is something you probably already know.
Why is it huge? Why is it huge regardless, huh? Let's begin with these premises, Chaitanya. Advocate Chaitanya. Why is it huge? And do you know that it was way more huge? Why isn't it as huge as it earlier was?
Know. We have an election that's currently going on, the results of which come out in less than a week. There are 900 million voters. That is, I study law, guys, can't do the math. That's probably 20 times the population of the United Kingdom. It is the largest democratic exercise in any event that is taking place. In the center of this government, we have...
On which, spoiler alert, he does not have a confidence in.
Narendra Modi, who came into power with a historic landslide in 2014 on the backs of getting jobs, getting infrastructure, getting progress. All that we have seen is a growth of intolerance, a country that is now...
There, fine. He has gotten into the classic Anglosphere claims on Modi, BBC documentary, spoiler alert. And but for now, you're going to think that, okay, maybe he's setting the premise. And then he'll go on to explain his claims. Wait, he does not get into that.
Now more divided than it has ever been. And with that, I'm going to give you a brief framework of how I go in this debate. Ironically,
India is more divided now than it has ever been, okay? Now people do genocides, you know? Like it never happened earlier. Now people go around committing genocides. Forced conversions are going on in 2022, today, right now. It's not as much as united as it was before. People are destroying temples everywhere.
For challenging a Hindutva government, I have a three-pronged argument based on the three principal Hindu gods. First, we have Shiva, the destroyer, and I'll tell you how Modi has also destroyed institutions of extreme significance in our country. Second, we have Vishnu, the preserver, and I'll tell you how he has preserved the worst elements in our society, emboldening them to heights...
Fair enough, nice sense of humor.
...that we should not be proud of. But finally, and coming to the main god of them all, Brahma, I will tell you how he has created a hatred, a divisiveness, and a...
Main god of them all.
...failed vision for what it means to be an Indian. And it is on these three grounds that I'm going to be incredibly proud to propose this debate. But before that, I'll have a little bit of fun, and I'll be like Modi and insult my opponents and give them no opportunity to reply back to me. Our first speaker today is Mr. Elliot Edward Bromley, the chair of the Consultative Committee from St. Edmund Hall, as he reminds us every Monday. I have been informed that when he's not at the union, he's actually masquerading as a second-year MPhil candidate in modern South Asian studies. The last time I saw Elliot speak from these very dispatched boxes, it was on a motion about Margaret Thatcher and whether Margaret Thatcher was a working-class hero. I see that he has not heeded the serious critique that he received on YouTube when he was told that a yuppie twat who cannot relate to the middle or working class should not be standing on this podium. But now we see Elliot standing proudly, endeavoring to relate to 1.3 billion Indians and all of these individuals that he's going to so proudly...
Okay, so he's accusing that white guy of not adequately being a representative of 1.3 billion Indians, but somehow this English lawyer is a representative of 1.3 billion Indians.
All jokes aside, under Modi's India, Elliot is probably more Indian than I am. With a glare...
Perhaps, yes, I haven't heard that white guy's arguments, but in a way, yes, because it's not a racial argument, you know. Hinduism, Hindutva, it's all about a consciousness. So in consciousness, whoever is more Hindu, it belongs to India more. than who doesn't. Doesn't matter what his ancestry is, doesn't matter what his skin color is,
As he
doesn't even matter what his religion is.
gives me every time I cut into a steak, Elliot would be a perfect fit into the Hindutva Sangh Parivar.
There, he felt the need to mention that he eats steaks. So these are all dog whistles. Remember, guys, these are political maneuvers. These are subtle highs. Hey, in the crowd, remember, I'm with you. I eat beef steaks just like you. I'm so proud of my food habits, and I'm so brave.
Our second speaker in the opposition is Nouri Abbas, a first-year history and politics student at New College and the international officer on the Oxford Union's Access Committee. When I first heard that Nouri was going to support...
Okay, she was a student back then, so remember that. Don't be too emotional about her. She might have just been testing her debating skills by getting into this topic.
the Modi government, I was surprised. How is it that a proud Pakistani was going to defend the man who recently declared that India's nuclear arsenal is not kept just for Diwali?
Well, it could be because that woman actually has brains and understands that just because you threaten doesn't mean you actually do the thing you threatened. And if you threatened, it means that you wanted some people to stay in line, and keeping some people in line for the betterment of the entire subcontinent and for your own people might not be such a bad thing. Not threatening Pakistan and letting them have their way is not in the best interests of anyone in the subcontinent. So maybe Madam Nouri was alluding to that.
But as I know, when I see that portrait of Benazir Bhutto right there, this union's political opportunism runs deep among its committee members. Getting us to channel whatever strings we can pull as long as we get to stand on these dispatch boxes and have the center stage. Third, we have Janvi Dadrakar, a British-Indian financial consultant and CEO of Mehra Consulting. Ms. Dadrakar serves as the director of the Europe-India Forum. After a quick Google search, I found some amazing insights about her. Ms. Dadrakar, I can confirm to you that your company, the Europe-India Forum's marketing has been a huge success, with the first 3 links that come when you Google it not being its website, not being its social media presence, or any news articles, but the UK company house. But more pertinently, I know that she knows how to attract an audience. Her latest address on YouTube at the Future Talent Conference has already garnered 50 entire views when I last checked. I am eager to...
Okay. First of all, not every topic has to garner views on YouTube. I don't think even Chaitanya's... Wait, how many views did it get? 535,000 views. Do you know what kind of crap gets millions of views on YouTube, Chaitanya? Do you know that? I know you are joking, but it's kind of... He was pretending to know so much about Hinduism. I don't see how it's humorous and funny to make fun of a woman who's about his mother's age and claim that she's not successful, she's not good at her personal life, in her personal career, just because she's on the opposite side of the debate today, and claim that her marketing company is bad because some videos he found on YouTube from her marketing company has too low of views. That's very weird and distasteful. I don't find this funny.
See how your speech is going to one-up that performance tonight. Our last, and I won't keep you for too long,
See, no one
speaker
laughs.
today is Mr. Gurcharan Das, an author, commentator, and the former CEO of Procter & Gamble India. He has written the international bestseller, India Unbound. While organizing the logistics of this debate, I had an amazing set of correspondence with Mr. Das, with email subjects such as falling out of love with Modi, and let's really talk about this. Mr. Das, I'm very glad that you're still sitting on the opposition bench. But much like Prime Minister Modi, I am being unfair to you by taking this opportunity to control the narrative about why you're sitting on that bench and not giving you an ample opportunity to reply. Madam President, these are your guests, and they're incredibly welcome. As I now begin my 8-minute speech, let me get to your attention what is really at stake here. Because it's very easy to dismiss this as a bunch of armchair liberal elites, which I'm sure we're going to get on YouTube anyway, having a conversation without recognizing anything. And so I want to take...
And let me tell you, nothing's going to change that. You are an armchair liberal elite who lives and works in London.
A moment to actually recognize. This debate isn't about people like me. I and many privileged individuals who've had the opportunity to study at a university like Oxford will survive and prosper regardless, or not prosper, but survive regardless of the government.
Okay, remember this. This fact is very important. This factor is important even while discussing economics. These elites are not in real life accountable. They don't have to win votes. They don't have skin in the game. Modi has, we live here. especially poor people. Anyone who's not an economic elite has a skin in the game. Dr. Thomas Sowell calls these people the non-accountable third party who always comments the most on any topic. But whenever a communist or socialist government comes to power, these people will be fine regardless. They will leave the country if they don't have job opportunities, just like he has or his parents have. Why is he in London? Because it's a worse off country, or it's a better country. If it's better, how is it better? How did it get better than India? They'll never let India do those same things that England did.
But this debate is about the millions, almost the billion individuals who don't have these accesses to power, who don't have these halls and bastions of free speech to voice themselves in. These are individuals who work in the lowest forms of employment, manual scavengers, farmers who continue to live in distress. So when we decide...
Farmers who would have benefited from the farm laws and were prevented by pizza eating, Mercedes owning farmers from just one state, not the entire country.
Whether or not we have confidence in this government, you need to remember that these are the individuals on whom you're making a decision. It is for
you need to remember that the individuals who are voting for Modi,
these individuals and their life, that you're casting your vote. But what does that mean then, right? Let's start, as I said, with the destruction that has been created under this government. Because let's recognize that India has prospered for the last 70 years as a fairly democratic country in a region that has seen huge degrees of instability.
What did he just say? India has prospered. India has prospered for the last 70 years. India has prospered for the last 75 or 70 years. India was prospering until 1991. We didn't get the memo, guys. We need to check out how India was prospering. India GDP growth rate graph. Okay, 1991. Check out Pakistan's GDP growth rate, 5.1% 1991. India's GDP growth rate, 1.1%. That's when Saddam Hussein invaded Qatar and oil prices shot up beyond control in India. And our GDP growth rate, our foreign exchange reserves, all were in the dogs, had gone to the dogs. And that's when PV Narasimha Rao and Manmohan Singh went to the IMF. कुछ पैसे दे दो भाई, इतना prosper हो गया हूँ under a liberal and socialist secular government कि अब भीख मांगने आना पड़ा है, आया तेरे दर पर दीवाना. And IMF said, okay, you want our money? Open your doors. Let us invest in India. And a lot of bad things ended up happening because India's government back then did not have its cultural identity in place. We just said, हाँ पैसे चाहिए कुछ भी, हाँ कन्वर्जन करना है, एड देना है, एड के बदले में कन्वर्जन करना है, जो चाहे लो, अभी थोड़ा पैसे दो पहले. So that's what happens when you don't have your cultural identity in place and you only think of development. But if you hadn't thought of development and culture along those lines from 1947, and in fact had kept your shit together from 1947, you would not have need to become so desperate in 1991. So anyway, the prosperity that we were facing from 1947 to 1991 had not worked, which is why we had to open our doors and give up anything the West wanted.
We have been proud of our institutions. We have Mr. Prashant Bhushan, whose father instituted...
Yes, we are proud of our institutions. They are definitely better than Pakistan, but let's not kid ourselves. I think the only thing Indians, that is leftists and right-wingers in India will agree, is that our judiciary is pretty third-rate and third world.
The case against Mrs. Gandhi when she tried to declare emergency. We have a robust system, but this government...
Yes, it is more robust than our neighbors, yes.
...tackled and harmed and tried every opportunity they can get to challenge these independent institutions. Whether it's a judiciary...
A judiciary who rebukes Nupur Sharma. A judiciary who disagrees with the government in every step of the way. A judiciary who is bypassed by Rajiv Gandhi. Shabano.
That we can no longer take complete confidence in because of who is in charge. Whether it is...
Yes, otherwise we had complete confidence in the judiciary. And because of Modi, because of the government who is being rebuked by the judiciary, that's how you know, that's why you are going to stop having confidence in the judiciary. What is this guy saying? How did he become a lawyer?
A planning commission that has been renamed into Niti Aayog.
It shouldn't have been renamed. Is the renaming his problem?
Which publishes statistics that could only come out of a storybook 4 months before elections,
Yes, now his problem is with the statistic because he has statistics that I think he has done a ground level survey and therefore he knows that these statistics are definitely impossible. How does he know this stuff?
making India seem all of a sudden like 1967 China with figures that no global investor can trust. This government has
But they end up trusting anyway and therefore they end up investing in India.
tried hard to destroy these institutions of independence. From an election commission that we are now worried doesn't have teeth sharp enough to bite into the BJP government.
Okay, to be fair, election commission nowhere ever in India has had teeth sharp enough to bite into anyone, okay? Election commission is, I think, largely a joke. In India, you still win elections based on your street power. But at the end of the day, I still think it's fair and democratic because how do you have street power if you don't have support politically? I can't help but give examples from Bengal every time on this, that the communists of today complain a lot about Trinamool people beating their people up during elections, but that's how communists have run elections forever. So they are just sad that they don't have the street power to counter these or to do these things themselves now. That's how you know that Trinamool deserves to be in power. They still have the street power. I think they won't have any, they might not have any this time in February when the panchayat elections come in, because you need to pay street power. Street power is not here because they believe in your party's ideology. The street power likes the money they are given because of a socialist economy and not much of job opportunities. They become political goons. No one becomes a political goon because it was their childhood ambition to become so. Everyone becomes a political goon because there are no other job opportunities. And in Bengal, job opportunities went to hell ever since Nehru started deindustrializing the state, and then communists, and then Trinamool. Everyone has deindustrialized the state. Only time someone thought of doing something else was a communist chief minister who was devastated politically, Buddhist Bhattacharya. So anyway, so we have plenty of political goons, and they want to be paid. And I think Trinamool might not be able to pay them this time because so much of Trinamool people's money has been gobbled up by CBI and ED. That might be a reason for their loss in this year's February panchayat elections. But anyway, as I was discussing about Chaitanya Kediyal, that I only disagree with his claim that now it's all of a sudden happening, that election commission now doesn't have any teeth. I would agree it has never had any teeth.
It is an important factor to remember that regardless of any political policies, social policies, economic policies, if this government is irreversibly damaging what it means to be Indian and what it means to have Indian institutions, that is already a government you cannot have confidence in. Because you have created irreversible harms that will last you, not only this lifetime, but future lifetimes.
Give examples. He doesn't give examples.
In a way that can't be calculated. But then secondly, on destruction. There's been a destruction of what it means to be an Indian. Because
Nice.
for a very long time, and I'm sure all the people who studied class 10 civics will nod along, we were taught at the starting point of India, after the British, like these individuals did all that they did to our country, was the preamble and a constitution. We, the people of India, solemnly declare to create a sovereign, socialist, democratic republic. That was the conception with which we began. And yes, there were amendments
Well, Dr. Ambedkar did not want the word socialist, remember?
that brought in, but we had a common playing ground. This was what it meant to be Indian. That narrative is now being destroyed.
Okay, how is that being destroyed? We are not socialist anymore. We are not sovereign anymore. What part of that narrative has been destroyed?
Amendments that brought in sovereign, socialist, democratic republic.
Which part
That was the
has been
conception with which we
changed?
began. And yes, there were amendments that brought in.
I want the socialism part to go away to hell, but that has not changed. Modi keeps on giving free stuff. Which part is being changed, Chaitanya?
But we had a common playing ground. This was what it meant to be Indian. That narrative is now being destroyed. We have speakers who say if you want to be acceptable in Indian discourse, you need to acknowledge your Hindu identity. You need to acknowledge.
Yeah. See, a lot of times liberals go on arguing that Hindu festivals are not really Hindu. They are just, you can celebrate them culturally. Diwali is just a festival of lights, pretty lights. Communists in Bengal have always said that. Why do they not have a problem with Durga Puja celebration? Because it's just a celebration. It's a cultural celebration. It's part of your heritage culture, etc. They don't have to be religious. That has been their argument. So why can't your Hindu heritage be your cultural identity and not your religious identity? Just the way it is in Indonesia, Thailand, etc.
that if you're not Hindu, at least your ancestors were Hindu.
Exactly.
This has never been a reality of the country of India.
Yes, because the reality was suppressed. It's truth that everyone's ancestors were Hindu, or Buddhist, or Jain. Even the ancestors of Jains and Buddhists were Hindu.
This might be a reality of some kingdoms in this country that is now called India. But
Okay, which king? Okay, some kingdoms. That's an interesting argument. It might be a reality of only some kingdoms. It might not be a reality of which kingdoms? Middle Eastern settler communities? And if so, why won't you call them Middle Eastern settler colonialists? Or at least settler colonialists? Or at least settler colonies inside India? Why the fear of the word settler colonialism?
to claim that this is what it means to be Indian is a destruction of that identity. But this is just not
The identity which was bullshit to begin with, okay?
destruction. This is just the high-level political damage that this government.
But anyway, to be fair, he made up an identity and then went on defending it as opposed to instead of the facts. But his first claim, which is the destruction of the secular sovereign, etc., he didn't give us any evidence of those things getting destroyed.
Already but this is just on destruction. This is just the high-level political damage that this government has already construed on our country.
See, it's a 15-minute video. We are 10 minutes 35 seconds into it, and so far what he has just given us is flowery language and platitudes and claims after claims after claims, tall claim after tall claim after tall claim, without evidence. Forget evidence. No even basic backup to those claims, not even basic examples or explanation to those claims.
Let's move to the preservation.
No one asks anyone to participate in a debate just to make claims. Does he argue this way in British courts? No wonder that country is going to the dogs.
What are these issues? What are these pernicious problems that they've maintained and ensured continue? This looks like a classist system where there isn't a real opportunity to break out. When individual
Classist system. Yeah, Modi government is a classist system. Yes. Modi government system is the classist system because there's so much targeted wealth redistribution going on that it's a classist system, guys.
people such as myself still think we are upper middle class, India is continuing to remain in a system where we claim, yes, let's remain pro-business, but hasn't actually acknowledged the deepest inequalities that have not only existed, but become far worse.
Okay. Now you would think he's going to mention caste, but he doesn't even do that. He just makes this claim and moves on.
Hasn't actually acknowledged the deepest inequalities that have not only existed, but become far worse. We have not only...
Okay, what inequalities have become far worse? No backup for that claim. Just a random claim and he moves on.
seen unemployment rate not rise, but actually decline under this government. They have...
Okay. Unemployment rate statistics are interesting. What is India's unemployment rate in 2019? It was 5.27%. What is US unemployment rate? What was US unemployment rate in 2019? 3.5%. So, you see, India's was just a little higher, and after 75 years and being socialist hellhole since 1991, let's cut them some slack. But okay. USA unemployment in 2022 is also apparently 3.5%. So I don't know how that works. It's either some fudged statistical fallacies or it's uniformly at 3.5%. I don't know how this works. But let's see if we can find some Indian unemployment rate chart and long term unemployment rate chart. Let's see how it has gone up or down. This is just 2020. So during COVID, the unemployment rate went down, and then unemployment rate increased after lockdowns went away. What kind of... Okay, so the data was collected after the lockdown went up. So that's how this works. I want to see long-term decade-old data. Youth unemployment rate 1999. So unemployment rate was lesser in 1999 than it is in 2021. Okay, now I see what's going on. It's the population which is not being the employment rate is not, the employment opportunities are not increasing as much as population, and that happens when your borders are kept open or basically filterable, and infiltrations go on, and local Trinamool leaders give away Aadhaar cards to to random Bangladesh illegal immigrants, and they keep coming in, and you don't send them back. And when there are talks of sending them back, you bring the nation to its knees and bring the country to a halt. That's when these sorts of unemployment data come about. Okay, we know now. If unlimited people keep coming in, how are unlimited job opportunities going to come from the sky?
Observed the kinds of toxicity that ensures individuals don't actually have a free and a fair chance to escape the poverty that they're condemned to.
Toxicity. Okay. Anytime someone uses toxicity in every way possible in every topic, you know that person is a liberal, woke, SJW, etc., and does not have any facts to back up their claims. They are just going to use flowery language. And secondly, how do people escape poverty? Other than having a job, and how to have more jobs by being pro-business. Now you criticize Modi for apparently pretending to be pro-business but not creating enough jobs, of course. But so are you saying it should be more pro-business? Let's understand if your stand is clear on that, but which he doesn't get into, because he would probably argue that he has too less of time to argue these things. It's just a 15-minute rant and 8-minute speech, in which he's going to make only 10 to 15 claims and not back one of them up.
But more than just preserving, I think it's important, and this is the main thrust, the creation. Because if I can show you that regardless of what this government did, if the things it tried to bring into power, if the creative elements of this government are problematic, and those that we can't have confidence in this debate clearly falls in the proposition.
Another favorite woke term.
I'll have 3 strands on that. The first strand is on the economy. This is a government which...
Finally, I think he's going to back up his claims.
...doesn't believe in accountability and checks. That is why you can have a prime minister who suddenly gets up on November 8th, 2016 and decides that nearly 89% of this entire country's currency is now void. Right?
Okay, how does a prime minister not be accountable? This is a very flimsy and hilarious premise to begin with. Prime ministers, politicians are always accountable because of their elections. They lose an election. And if you could argue that they are rigged and it happens with street goons again, why do they have street power?
There is no checks, there's no questioning of the internal system. And here's the...
Yes. What are you doing right now? You are questioning. Maybe you think that no one in India questions. You are the only one with the savior complex and saving us Indians from this oppressive, unaccountable government. But questioning is always going on.
The issue. You might say, well, they might have poor economic policy, at least journalists, at least other individuals will hold them account. But that fails as well, right? Because
his problem the fact that no one questions the government, or his problem is the fact that it fails. The questioning fails. I think he's mixing those two up. It fails because they are not good enough and because the people know and believe otherwise.
You have a prime minister who in 5 years has had 0 press conferences with a truly independent and free media sources. You have a government...
Truly independent and free media sources. That's why the prime minister doesn't give press conferences in the first place, because someone or the other is going to claim that it's not truly independent.
That cannot be held accountable because they are unwilling to do so. And when they are pushed, when they are asked, why have you made the choices...
Well, 2019 elections.
...you've made, they make excuses. They build a layer and a filter of excuses. Let's look at demonetization, something that no minister has adequately answered in the last 3 years. They first told you it's to get rid of terrorism funding.
Which they did for a while.
Was proven to not be true.
How was it proven not to be true?
In the last 3 years. They first told you it's to get rid of terrorism funding. That was proven to not be true. They then told us, it's got to get rid of all the illicit black money.
It did for a while. How is that a false claim?
All of that continued to persist. They then said...
The fact that it continued to persist is not a destruction of the earlier claim that it sucked out all the black money from the system. I don't think they had claimed, if at all they had claimed, they had made that claim in a field procession. But I don't think the claim ever was that this is going to end the idea of black money forever and ever, when we are going to live happily ever after in India. Gaya, hamesha ke liye black money khatam. That was not the claim. It did clean up the system. A lot of people's black money went to hell back then. It disappeared for quite a while, and then the entire country shifted to a digital economy.
India, a country where the vast majority still don't genuinely have a digital connection, should transition like the US and the UK into an e-currency, an e-system based thing.
Oh, guys, you know this statement aged poorly. So sorry, Chaitanya. What percentage of Indians use digital payments? 90% of Indian consumers use digital tools for at least one financial task. So you see, he thought it should have happened within 2019, which it didn't. It took some time. It took the COVID, and then we got there anyway. So sad, Chaitanya.
The only E that they could get is on a report card for how poorly they have treated paper coins.
Cool, hilarious claim with nice English language again.
The second creation of theirs then that needs to be drawn and quoted here is the divisiveness that not only they preserved, but that they have festered.
Okay. You know that the famous phrase that just keep repeating a lie long enough and people will tend to believe it. But also remember what the musician singer Bob Marley said, that you can fool some people for some time. You can't fool all the people for all the time. I think one of them is true. And so this is a claim, and it seems to be an agreed upon statement these days in the West that, okay, Modi is divisive and he's a dictator. So they have repeated these things so many times among themselves, in their friend circle, in their echo chambers, that everyone just everyone just talks of it like it's a fact without ever backing it up.
Looks like union ministers garlanding individuals who are allegedly committing lynching of people for eating substances like beef that I can laugh about here. It is not.
Yeah, they should not have garlanded those people. I agree here with Chaitanya here. But remember, it was not like everyone was getting lynched for having beef, and it's not like people have never been lynched for any other thing in the history of the country. But of course, no lyncher has ever been garlanded. Let's fact check this. I am not entirely sure about this. Which union minister garlanded beef lynching? Let's say Union Minister Jayant Sinha garlands 8 lynching convicts. Who is Jayant Sinha? Member of Lok Sabha. Where is he from? He is from IIT Delhi. IIT Delhi. So every time people say that, yeah, just be science minded, and then all your problems will go away if you study science. So what happened now? Where is he from? University of Pennsylvania, Harvard Business School. This guy did that. Funny. Sounds like a lot of overcompensation. Are you sure? I'm not sure this is the same person who did that. Might be some other Jayant Sinha, although the spelling is same. Pretty crazy. This person went on to garland a person accused of lynching someone for having beef. Crazy. I do not think that should have happened.
Laughing matter back in India, when people are knocking down on your doors, when people are not even being punished, but rather applauded for this vigilantism.
Okay, he says people a little too many times, so I'll have to counter it. People were never basically going around knocking on doors and asking whether you eat beef or not. Otherwise, entire Bengal would be would be lynched. But a few cases happened. A lot of them were statistical fallacies again. Some people had a fight with someone and they just happened to have been eating beef. A lot of things were conflated that way. But then it stopped again. And besides, the constitution allows for beef to be banned. No one enforces those things. It's the weakness of the judiciary. Remember that Bose Indicus. Remember Subramaniam Swamy, J. Deepak and Akbaruddin Owaisi's debate. So, you could argue that a lot of these things are springing up, and they are springing up because you had suppressed them so much. So on the one hand, I can't draw the religious figures of one side, and on the other hand, my gods can be killed, chopped up, fried and eaten up. That should not be acceptable. That's not the idea of secularism. That's the idea of that's not even the idea of irreligiosity, even though they always mix up the idea of secularism and irreligiosity. And they think secularism is all about every person, every institution being secular. It's the government and state institutions who are supposed to be secular, not individuals. But anyway, I don't see why, if I'm supposed to respect a person's religion, And then why shouldn't everyone else be respectful of my religion? When I say that I consider that animal to be my god, and you are going on claiming proudly that you eat and fry and kill and maim, behead that god, and then eat up that god. We are very respectful, and one or two incidents may have happened, and they may have sprung up because you had suppressed these voices. But then don't suppress those voices so that they don't spring up. That's the lesson. That's the key takeaway, Chaitanya.
To reconstruct this identity of Hinduism, you see a creation that is not only being condoned, but is actually being perpetuated by them. But the last...
It's not being perpetuated all of a sudden right now. You had turned a deaf ear to these ideas. That's why you think all of this is happening suddenly for the first time right now.
And final creation, that is the most pernicious of them all, is this broad idea of Hinduism and Hindutva that I've been talking. Because make no mistake, across the bench, you will find many people here who are proudly Hindu. But to be proud...
Yeah, proud. This is a straw man. We have such many proud Hindus in West Bengal as well. See, it's okay. Anyone can be a proud Hindu. Not everyone has to be a protector of Hinduism. But protecting someone, protecting something is different from practicing that thing. And even doctors and soldiers, that's a different job. Are they same jobs? Protecting and killing, or being in a position to be able to kill in order to conserve something, versus saving the life of some things. There are different ways to practice something. There are different ways to even conserve something or save some things. So let's not pretend just because someone does puja path in their homes, they are the biggest proponents of Hinduism and they are the authority on Hinduism. No, that's not the case.
Proudly Hindu meant something very different.
Yes, proudly Hindu meant that cede any space that Middle Eastern settlers want. Give them 123 prime properties just before losing your elections in 2013. Give them all powers under HRC Act and Waqf Board. That's what meant. And that identity, that idea is slowly changing. At least it has changed largely among the masses and below 35 people, like people who are below 30. That idea has changed. That's no longer what counts as being a good Hindu. And that's good.
Then what it means today. Hinduism that the BJP government imposes is a...
How does BJP government impose Hinduism? How does this English language sentence even work? What's he talking about? He makes again a tall claim and doesn't back it up.
Very myopic political agenda dominated by North Indian Brahmins.
How?
And
North Indian Brahmins. Okay, guys. So, Narendra Modi is a North Indian Brahmin. Amit Shah is a North Indian Brahmin. Fine. You refuse to listen. I am talking about Chaitanya and people like Chaitanya. They refuse to listen to any voice that's not wielding a lathi and has a tilak, and then pretend that that's the only voice around. Sitaram, Goel, is he a North Indian Brahmin? Ram Swarup, is he a North Indian Brahmin? Maybe, I'm just asking actually. I don't know their castes actually. Well, Deepak, is he a North Indian Brahmin? Is Sri Aurobindo a North Indian Brahmin? Is S.L. Bhairappa a North Indian Brahmin? Is Dharampal a North Indian Brahmin? Is S.N. Balagangadhara a North Indian Brahmin? So, I don't know. You just, it seems like you're a racist, Chaitanya Kediyal. You hate the people from North and who happen to be Brahmin. You are a racist and a casteist person who just hates the ideas of a certain kind of people, but then you accuse that idea of being bad without ever backing up that claim. And then you accuse castes, people of one caste, of one region of India, of having that so-called bad idea. So this guy is a lawyer in England.
Across this entire country. It is putting a certain political ideology above all else.
How?
But finally, and this is why this government can't just be defeated by me, but by 4 entire speakers. It's because they have a laundry list of problems. From linguistic suppression.
How does BJP do linguistic suppression? That Hindi imposition thing he is talking about. How does BJP do that? I have never heard any actual claims about this. Again, no backups to these claims. It's just something that people go on repeating among themselves in their friend circles and college hangouts and their WhatsApp groups, that BJP is imposing Hindi. ये एक statement बना दिया है, चलो बोलते रहो.
From making sure that certain regions are disproportionately mistreated and not given the opportunities that they deserve.
What does he mean here? Certain regions are disproportionately not given opportunities. Does he mean Bengal? I can think only of Bengal and Tamil Nadu. Okay. Tamil Nadu, that too after the GST payments thing has come to the forefront. That was not clear in 2019. So what is he talking about? Bengal maybe? You're going to give, the more money you give to Bengal, the more the government is going to waste it. Or going to say that, yeah, Mamata Banerjee did those things with the central government's money.
Deserve. This government cannot have any confidence in. When you walk out of those historic doors, don't cast a vote as an
Historic doors. Why are those doors historic? What made those doors historic, Chaitanya? Why won't you let India have those same nice things? Why won't you let us have our historic doors? And if we call our historic doors Hindu, you have a problem with that as well.
individual living in these comfortable halls. But rather, think about whether a government that has permanently harmed political institutions, that has
Without ever explaining how it has harmed.
festered social division like never before, and that
How, where.
has created economic policies that is disastrous, can gain anyone's confidence.
That's why the country you are living in is now lagging behind us in terms of GDP size.
And I urge you to vote in the proposition. Thank you very much.
So from the beginning to the end, he was trying to make one very specific claim that, remember, we are going to be accused of being armchair liberals, but we are not. Remember, you have to represent the 1.3 billion Indians, and he thinks he succeeded at that. And again, after all, who votes for Modi? Which class of Indians vote for Modi? And how does Modi's votes keep increasing with the votes of which class? Again, here Chaitanya, Kediyal might not have answers to these things. But anyway, thanks for checking out this video. I'll be countering these people as I go on in my life. Thank you.